The whipping room of Khazar. The room was dark. Cold metal walls, wet stone floor, and a strong smell of blood and sweat. Heavy chains hung from the ceiling. In the center of the room, a thin alien woman dangled by her wrists. Her name was Saralyn. She didn't scream anymore. Her back was covered in old scars. New ones were bleeding. Her pale skin was cracked, her eyes sunken, but something inside her had not died. Even after 15 years, even after being whipped 5 days a week by the cruel alien Baron of Khazar, Baron Varlax, he called it training. She knew it was punishment. Once she had been a healer, a scientist, someone respected. But she had refused the Baron's orders to hurt innocents during a war. So he made an example out of her. He locked her in this underground prison. And every week, his guards came to remind her she was nothing. That day, the door creaked open again. The heavy boots of 2 alien guards echoed through the stone hallway. One carried the usual whip, its tip glowing blue. Electric, cruel. The other laughed. Still alive, Sarah? You must really enjoy this. Sarah didn't speak. She stared at the wall, her lips dry and broken. The whip cracked in the air. Pain shot through her body. She didn't flinch, but outside that dungeon, far above, something new was happening. A human trade ship had landed. The humans were allowed into Khazar City for resource exchange. They weren't allowed to explore. They weren't allowed to ask questions. But one human didn't follow orders. Marcus Rain, an engineer and former Earth soldier, was fixing a power grid near the castle's lower side. While scanning the circuits, he heard something strange. A sound. Faint, like someone breathing heavily. No, not just breathing, gasping. He paused. His scanner picked up life signs, but just one, deep below the floor. It didn't make sense. He asked one of the Khazar technicians, "Hey, what's down there?" The alien didn't even look at him. Waste vents. Nothing important. But Marcus knew better. That wasn't the sound of a vent. It was the sound of someone trying to survive. That night, while his team rested, Marcus went back, alone. He found a forgotten access tunnel near the wall. The deeper he went, the worse the air became. Rusted pipes, dust, and then a scream. Quick, sharp, not loud but filled with pain. He froze. His heart beat faster. Something told him to leave. This wasn't his business. But something stronger made him move forward. Finally, he reached a thick iron door. A small window was cut into the center. He wiped the dust off and looked inside. What he saw made his breath stop. A woman, hanging by chains. Her head tilted down, but her chest moved barely. Her back was bleeding. Fresh wounds. Marcus stepped back in shock. He had seen war, seen pain, but this was something else. This was everyday torture, done for years. He looked around. No guards, no alarms. He whispered through the door. "Can you hear me?" The woman didn't move. But slowly, her eyes opened. They were golden, glowing faintly. Not with power, but with pain and hope. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then she mouthed something. "Help me." Marcus clenched his fists. He looked at the locks. It would take time to break them. He had no tools now, no backup. And if anyone found him here, he could be arrested or worse, killed. He backed away. Her eyes followed him. "I'll come back," he whispered. "I swear it." She didn't reply. But a small breath escaped her lips. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. The others laughed, joked, talked about heading home. But Marcus only thought about her. What kind of world allowed this? The next morning, as the human ship prepared to leave in 3 days, Marcus made a decision. He downloaded building maps, memorized the guard shifts, collected old tools and wires from the tech room. Nobody knew what he was planning. Nobody knew that the human had seen something unforgivable, and he wasn't going to walk away from it. Down in the dungeon, Sierra hung silently again. Her eyes closed. She didn't believe he would come back. No one ever came back. But somewhere far above, a human had already started preparing to break her chains. Marcus didn't speak a word to anyone the next day. He moved with his repair team like normal, checking cables, inspecting fuel tubes, reporting back to the Kaiser control post. But his mind stayed locked in that dark room. And on the girl hanging from those chains, he kept seeing her eyes. Not angry, not broken. Just tired. And full of something strange. Hope. That night, when the camp lights dimmed and his teammates rested, Marcus slipped away again. This time, he carried a small bag filled with tools, quiet cutters, power cell spikes, and a few smoke beads to use as distraction if needed. He wore his black jacket, kept the hood low, and followed the same path down the old tunnel. The deeper he went, the colder the air grew. The walls dripped moisture. Pipes hissed with steam. And then he reached the heavy door again. He looked through the small window. She was still there, still hanging. Her eyes were closed this time. Blood had dried across her back. Her long white hair was tangled around her shoulders. She looked like a ghost. A breathing, broken ghost. Marcus whispered, "Hey, it's me." She didn't move at first. Then her head slowly lifted. Her golden eyes opened again, this time weaker. But still awake. She blinked a few times. "I came back," Marcus said quietly. "You didn't imagine me." She didn't smile. But her chest rose just slightly. A breath. Marcus looked at the lock. It was old tech. Alien, yes, but poorly maintained. He reached into his pouch and pulled out a small circuit spike. He whispered, "I'm going to try to open this, but if someone comes, don't react. Pretend I was never here." Still silent, she gave the tiniest nod. Marcus worked fast. Sweat rolled down his neck as he connected the wires. The door hissed. It wanted to open. But the last bolt was magnetic. He needed a second tool. He cursed under his breath. "Damn, I'll need another power loop." Just as he began to pack his things again, she finally spoke. Her voice was dry, cracked but soft. "Why?" Marcus froze. He turned slowly. "What?" She repeated. "Why are you helping me?" He stared at her. "Because no one else is." She blinked slowly. Her lips moved, but no sound came. He stepped closer to the bars. "You don't deserve this," he whispered. "No one does." "I said no to him," she whispered. "I wouldn't hurt the children, so he hurt me instead." Marcus clenched his jaw. His voice tightened. "Baron." "Varlax?" She nodded. He looked at her chains. They were fused into the wall. He couldn't break them here. "Not yet. I'll come back tomorrow. I'll bring what I need to cut those chains." "You'll be caught," she said. "He'll kill you." "I've faced worse than him," Marcus replied. She gave the smallest smile, barely visible. "Human," she whispered. "Your kind used to scare us." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "And now?" She looked down. "Now, you're the only one who looked at me like I was still alive." That hit him harder than he expected. He stepped back. "I'll return. Be ready. When I open that door, we're leaving." She closed her eyes again. "If you die, don't come back, please." But Marcus didn't reply. He disappeared into the shadows again, vanishing into the tunnels above. Meanwhile, high in his throne room, Baron Varlax sat in silence. A small drone hovered beside him, replaying footage from a hallway camera. There, caught briefly, was a hooded figure, human, male, walking toward a restricted corridor. "Who is he?" The Baron growled. The drone replied, "Unregistered movement, possibly crew engineer. No confirmed ID yet." Varlax's eyes narrowed. "If a human is poking around my floors, he'll wish I'd only whipped him." He slammed a fist into the control panel. "Double the guards." Lock the sublevels. No more visitors in my prison. The next morning, Marcus had barely slept. He downloaded a different map. The direct path to the dungeon was now guarded 2 watch posts added overnight. He muttered, "They know." His mind raced. He couldn't go back the same way. He needed another entry. A faster one. And he had just 2 nights left before his ship left Kaiser forever. He walked outside, pretending to inspect a panel, and glanced at the tower vents above. The castle wall. Old maintenance. Shafts. Narrow. Dangerous. But they led straight to the under-dash levels. Marcus smiled to himself. Looks like I'm going in from above. Down in the cell, Sarah Lynn hung in silence again, but her eyes were open now. Every sound made her look at the door. She whispered to herself, over and over, "He came back once. Maybe he'll come again." She didn't know his name, but in her mind he was no longer just a stranger. He was her chance, and Baron Varlax had no idea. His grip on her was slipping, because a human had seen her through iron bars and chosen to fight for her life. Marcus knew time was running out. The human ship was scheduled to leave Kaiser in just 2 days. Once it launched, he'd be gone. She'd be left behind. Again, and she wouldn't survive. Much longer. He stood inside a tool room deep in the maintenance sector, sweating, not from heat but from fear. He wasn't a spy. He wasn't a hero. He was just an engineer, but what he'd seen in that dungeon had burned into his soul. The alien woman, Sarah Lynn, wasn't a criminal. She wasn't dangerous. She was a victim. And now she was his responsibility. Marcus opened a hidden compartment in the wall where he had stashed everything he'd need: a portable plasma cutter, a wire disruptor, and a miniature EMP grenade for disabling surveillance for 30 seconds. 30 seconds. That's all the time he would get. His heart beat faster as he pulled his hood up and slid out of the room. He didn't walk fast. He walked calm, smooth, like a worker on a task. But every step brought him closer to danger. This time, he didn't go through the tunnels. The path was under surveillance now. He climbed out using magnetic boots. Marcus scaled a vertical shaft that ran behind the palace towers. Hot air rose through it, stinging his face. Pipes burned his palms. But he didn't stop. He had memorized every vent, every bolt. When he reached the side hatch that led into the upper maintenance duct, he paused. From here, one wrong move could kill them both. He slid the hatch open. Dust filled his lungs as he crawled inside. The passage was barely wide enough for his body. He moved inch by inch, following the blueprints he had studied the night before. One wrong turn, and he'd end up in a furnace room, but he kept going. Then finally, he reached the shaft above the dungeon. He peeked through a broken grate. There she was, still chained, barely conscious. His chest ached at the sight of her. She was getting weaker. He placed a hand over his chest mic. "This is it." Marcus dropped quietly into the room. She stirred. Her eyes opened slowly. At first, she didn't believe what she was seeing, but he was real. "You came back," she whispered. He nodded. "Told you I would." She shook her head weakly. "You're crazy." "Maybe," Marcus said, stepping forward. "But you're not dying." In here, he placed the plasma cutter against her left chain. The metal hissed and glowed. Sparks danced across the floor. The smell of burned steel filled the air. One cuff snapped free. Her arm fell limp. He moved to the other chain, eyes darting to the door. 10 seconds. 9. The final cuff gave way. She dropped. He caught her just in time. Her body was weightless, bones and skin. She winced, but didn't cry out. "We're going through the vent," Marcus said, lifting her carefully. "Hold tight." But just then, the alarm went off. Red lights flashed. They had been spotted. "No," Marcus whispered. He triggered the EMP grenade. The lights died. For 30 seconds, no cameras, no alerts, no trackers. He shoved her into the vent and crawled behind her, pushing her gently forward. Her breathing was ragged. "I can't," You can. Just a little more. They reached the shaft. He attached the rope and lowered her slowly. But then boom! The door to the dungeon exploded open behind them. Guards flooded in. They saw the open vent. One fired. A bolt missed Marcus by inches. He dropped. Landed hard on his feet. Picked her up. Ran. Sirens screamed through the underground palace. Orders shouted in alien tongues. Baron Varlax slammed his fist into a control console. Find them. He couldn't believe it. One human, a nobody, had dared steal from him, no defy him. He'd make an example out of both of them. Marcus sprinted through the maze of lower chambers, carrying Sira like she weighed nothing. She tried to speak, but only coughed. The air down there was thick with steam and chemicals. We're almost out, Marcus said. Just hold on. They reached a supply tunnel 1 that hadn't been used in years. He had found it on an old blueprint, sealed and forgotten, but Marcus had unsealed it just in case. He pressed a button and a rusty panel slid open. Faint moonlight shone through the cracks. Freedom was close, but just before they escaped, Sira whispered, "Wait." Marcus stopped. "What is it?" She pointed toward a nearby panel. "In there," she said weakly. "Files, names, others, like me." Marcus stared. "You mean there are more?" She nodded. Tears rolled down her dirty cheeks. "I'm not the only one." Marcus hesitated. They were running out of time, but he made a choice. He kicked open the panel, grabbed the glowing data crystal inside, and shoved it into his pocket. "I've got it." Then, he carried her into the night, into freedom. For the first time in 15 years, Saralyn felt the night wind on her face. She closed her eyes and whispered, "You're real." And Marcus, battered and out of breath, whispered back, "So, are you?" The old tunnel behind them collapsed as Marcus slammed the emergency seal. Dust choked the air. He held Sira tightly in his arms, her body shivering against his chest. She was barely conscious, bones too sharp under her skin, breath short and raspy. But her eyes remained open, staring at the dark ceiling of the passage. Above. They were free. But only for a moment. Sirens still echoed through the underground. Guards were everywhere. Drones flew low through side vents, scanning for life signatures. The Baron had activated Kill Protocol 7. Shoot on sight. No warnings. Marcus adjusted his grip. "We're not safe yet. We need to move fast." Sira whispered, "Where are we?" "The old filtration vents." "No one uses them now," he said, stepping over a broken pipe. "But they still run deep under Kaiser." Her head rested against his chest. "Smells like death." Marcus nodded grimly. "That's because these vents once led to the waste mines. They dumped chemicals here before the system failed." "Is it safe?" she asked. He didn't answer, because at WSN single quotes that the deeper they went, the thicker the gas. Old greenish mist rolled through the passages, lit only by Marcus's chest. Light, toxic, corrosive. It burned the eyes and throat. He wrapped a cloth over Sira's face. Then his own. Above them, footsteps echoed in the distant metal. Kezar's hunters were coming. They had no time. Far above, in the Baron's war chamber, the lead tracker slammed a talon over the map table. "They're moving through Vent Sector Delta. Zone 9 is active. The gas will slow them." Baron Varlax narrowed his eyes. "Good. Let them run. Let them choke." He paused, then added, "Send in the hounds." "Sir, you heard me. The biohounds haven't tasted fear in months." Marcus heard them first. Low growls. Mechanical pads thumping through pipes. Echoes of claws scraping metal. His grip on Sira tightened. "Move," he said to himself. "Faster." She stirred weakly. "You should leave me." He didn't stop. "Not happening." "But you've suffered 15 years. I can carry you for 15 minutes. He found a hatch, pushed it open with his shoulder, and stepped into a narrow channel with sloped walls. Fluorescent moss glowed faintly on the ground, but the growls were louder now. The hounds were gaining. Sierra opened her eyes, suddenly alert. Wait, left turn ahead. There's a vent shaft. How do you know? I was a builder once. I worked on this level. Before I became a prisoner. Marcus nodded. Then guide me. Behind them, the first hound dropped from the ceiling, pipe sleek, four-legged, metal-spined, and half-flesh. Its eyes were red lasers. Its nose sniffed the air. It howled. Two more joined it. They ran fast. Marcus ran too. His legs ached. His lungs burned, but he didn't let go of her. She pointed weakly. There, down that chute. He turned, sliding. Down the slick pipe. Sparks flashed as his boots scraped the walls. They dropped into a dim chamber full of broken fans. The gas was thicker here. It clung to their skin like slime. Sierra coughed. This leads to the coolant shaft. It connects to the outer rim. Then let's go. He set her down carefully, then began pushing open the rusted exit door with both hands. Metal screeched. Hinges cracked. Then bang. A hound landed behind them. Marcus turned, pulled a small knife from his belt, and stood in front of Sierra. Stay behind me, he whispered. The hound growled, stepping forward. Its metal claws sparked on the floor. Its mouth opened rows of burning teeth. It lunged. Marcus dodged left, stabbing the blade into its side. The blade bounced off. No effect. The hound spun, slashing them across the back. He fell forward, gritting his teeth. Blood trickled down his side. Sierra screamed. The hound turned to her. Marcus shouted, no. He dove forward, slamming a pipe into its legs. It tripped, slammed into the wall, and sparked violently. For a second it twitched. Then stillness. Dead. Marcus dropped beside it, panting. His body was shaking. Sierra crawled to him, her hands trembling. You're bleeding. I'm fine, he lied. She stared into his eyes. You risked your life for me. I told you, he said softly. I don't walk away from people who need help. She nodded, touched his hand gently. Then let me help you now, she whispered. With weak fingers, she pressed a healing gel from a small tube she had hidden in her ragged clothes. It glowed faintly, soothing the wound. Marcus sighed as the pain lessened. Thanks, he said. She smiled. Then the door finally cracked open. Cool wind rushed through. Real air, night air. Stars blinked above, distant but free. Marcus picked her up again. One more climb, then we're gone. She leaned into him. Where will we go? Somewhere he can't reach you. Back in the palace, Baron Varlax stared at the map. His voice was like a storm. They reached the rim? The guard nodded nervously. And the hounds failed? Another nod. Varlax's eyes narrowed. Then I'll hunt them myself. As Marcus and Sierra crawled into the cold night, leaving the vents behind, she whispered, Do you think I can be free again? He looked at her, dirt-streaked and broken, but still glowing inside. You already are. The room trembled. Baron Varlax stood in the center of his war chamber, staring at the broken steel collars lying on his throne. His eyes glowed dark violet, a color that only appeared when he was near the edge of madness. The guards in the room dared not speak. Behind him, 3 holograms floated. One showed the wrecked prison cell. Another showed a static map of the old ventilation system. The third showed Sierra's face recorded years ago when she first entered his dungeon. You let her escape. He growled, voice like thunder cracking across stone. 15 years of obedience undone in one night. His captain stepped forward, trembling. She had help. From a human, my lord. Varlax turned slowly. Say that again, a human male. From the Earth Trade Team, we believe he accessed old blueprints. He knew where to go. Did anyone catch him? The captain looked down. No, my lord. He fought the hounds. Killed one. Escaped through the coolant shaft. Varlax let out a low growl that shook the floor. Then he reached for the side of his chair and slammed a fist into a glowing red button. From above, a cage dropped into the room inside it. A trembling young alien technician. "Forgive me, Baron," the technician cried. "I didn't know he would use my terminal. I thought he was just adjusting the energy flow." His words ended in a scream. With a motion of his finger, the Baron activated the cage's punishment grid. Blue fire flashed inside. The screams didn't last long. Silence returned. The Baron looked at his officers. "From now on, all humans on Kaiser are to be watched. No one leaves this planet until I say so. And find me the one who helped her." He pointed toward the screen showing Sarah's face. "She's not just a prisoner," he growled. "She knows things, secrets about my weapons, about my rule. She was part of the Science Guild before she betrayed me." Another guard stepped forward. "Sir, she also stole something." Varlax raised an eyebrow. "What?" "We believe the human took one of the memory crystals." From Sector 12, the Baron's face changed. His eyes narrowed. "No." He turned away from them, breathing slowly. "That memory crystal. It didn't just hold prisoner records. It held the prophecy. The one that Varlax had kept hidden for decades. The one that said a human would bring his empire to ruin." Far away, in the cold plains beyond Kaiser City, Marcus and Sierra rested inside a half-buried supply shed. The building was abandoned, its roof broken, walls rusted. But it was shelter for now. Sarah sat wrapped in a thermal blanket Marcus had given her. Her cheeks had color again. Her breathing was steady, but her eyes remained alert. Always listening. Marcus watched the scanner on his wrist. "There. Searching the airfields. Not here yet." Sarah nodded. "He'll never stop. Let him try." She looked up. "You don't understand, Marcus. Baron Varlax isn't just cruel. He's afraid." "Afraid?" "Yes." She reached into the blanket and pulled out the glowing crystal he had risked his life to take. It doesn't just show prisoner data." She held it up, and the blue light projected a hologram into the air, an ancient document. Alien text filled the space, shifting like fire. "This was written by the old seers," she explained. "Before the war, before the Baron rose to power." Marcus couldn't read the language, but the tone was clear. "Sacred, powerful." Sierra translated slowly. "A shadow from beyond shall fall, but the stars shall send a stranger. Not of our kind. He will see the unseen, break the unbreakable, and where he walks, the chains shall fall." Marcus stared at her. "You think that's me?" "I don't." "No," she said honestly, "but the Baron always feared this. That a human would come, not to trade, but to change everything." Marcus leaned back against the wall. "Well, he picked the wrong guy. I'm not special." She smiled faintly. "You're the only one who saw me and came back." Outside, wind howled. Storm clouds formed in the sky. Back at the palace, Varlax stood on the high balcony, staring at the horizon. His scouts had failed. The hounds were destroyed. His control was slipping. He reached into his robe and pulled out his personal weapon, a long, black staff with an emerald core that pulsed with ancient energy. He had ruled Kaiser for 40 years, and no one had ever defied him and lived. Until now. He looked to the stars. "If prophecy wants a human, then I'll bury him myself." He turned to his guards. "Send the elite. Bring her back alive. But the human?" He smiled coldly. "Burn him." Back in the shelter, Sierra looked out the cracked window. "We can't stay here. The scanners will reach us by morning." Marcus nodded. "I know." He tightened the strap on his side pack. "There's an old rebel outpost 40 clicks south. I saw it on an old Earth Kaiser map. It might still have a working transmitter. Then we go there," she said. He paused. "You sure you can walk that far?" She stood shaky, but stronger than before. I survived 15 years hanging in chains. I can survive 40 kilometers, Marcus smiled. That's the spirit. As they stepped into the wind, stars lit the path ahead. Behind them, Kaiser burned in rage, and ahead was something the Baron never expected. Hope. Asterisk. The desert wind howled as Marcus helped Syrah across the jagged rocks. They had walked for hours farther than any scan grid usually reached, but Marcus knew the Baron wouldn't stop. Varlax didn't just want revenge, he wanted control. And Syrah wasn't just a prisoner anymore. She was a symbol of his failure. And Marcus? He was the human who broke the chains. They had almost reached the ridge where an old rebel outpost was hidden, half buried under dust and sand. From above, it looked like ruins. But Marcus had read Earth's recon files this place once held. Equipment, fuel, even long-range comms. Maybe it still did. Maybe it was their last chance. Syrah paused, breath short. I hear them, Marcus spun. For a second, silence. Then the rumble of engines. He grabbed her hand. They're coming. Behind them, black ships flew low, slicing through the sky like blades. They weren't just scout drones anymore. They were Baron Varlax's personal fleet. Sleek, armored, and deadly. Inside the lead cruiser, Varlax stood at the front window, his green energy staff glowing in his hand. The pilot turned nervously. Target is near the old outpost, my lord. Do we fire? Varlax didn't blink. No, land. I want the girl alive. And the human? The Baron's smile returned. Crush him. Marcus and Syrah reached the top of the ridge just as the first ship landed behind them, sand whipping up into the air. No time to reach the transmitter, Marcus said, helping her behind a collapsed wall. Syrah's voice shook. Then we fight. He looked at her. You can barely walk. I'll crawl if I have to. He pulled out a stolen shock pistol and handed it to her. It's not much, but it'll buy us time. She gripped it with both hands. Her fingers trembled, but her eyes did not. The Baron stepped out of his ship like a king descending from the stars. He was tall, armored in black and emerald, his long cloak dragging across the sand. His guards spread out behind him in formation, silent, armed, and merciless. He raised his staff, and the sky above seemed to shudder with power. Marcus reign! He shouted, his voice echoing across the rocks. You have something that belongs to me. Marcus stepped out, gun raised. Sorry, he said. She doesn't belong to you anymore. Varlax narrowed his glowing eyes. You don't understand what she is. I don't care what you call her, Marcus replied. She's a person, and I don't let people like you keep prisoners. The Baron's staff pulsed. Then you die a fool. The guards opened fire. Syrah ducked, returning blast shots with shaky aim. Marcus dove behind cover, rolling into a crouch, firing back with quick bursts. The outpost wall shattered under the impact of heavy rounds. But Marcus was fast, too fast. He hit one guard in the shoulder. Another in the leg. Smoke filled the air. Varlax didn't move. He simply waited. Then as the last guard fell screaming, he stepped forward and slammed his staff into the ground. A shockwave exploded in every direction, throwing Marcus back into the rocks. His gun flew from his hand. He groaned, blood dripping from his forehead. Syrah screamed, running toward him, but the Baron stepped between them. You think this ends here? Varlax growled. Do you know how many empires I've crushed? Marcus spat blood. Then you've never fought someone with nothing to lose. He grabbed a loose cable from the wreckage and slammed it against the Baron's leg. Electricity jolted through the air, enough to stun a small creature. But Varlax didn't even flinch. He raised his staff and brought it down, only for Syrah to block the strike. She had leapt between them, holding a broken metal shield above her head. The staff's energy hit it, scorching it, bending it, but it held long enough for Marcus to crawl up and grab the pistol again. He aimed it straight at the Baron's chest and fired. Bang! The Baron staggered backward. His armor cracked. Roared in pain. Marcus stood, bloodied and limping. "You're done." But Varlax wasn't finished. He threw his staff toward Sira. It spun through the air. Pulsing with rage, she didn't dodge. She caught it. The energy rushed into her hands, but instead of killing her, it flashed through her body like fire. And died. She stared at the staff, then broke it in half. Silence fell. The wind carried away the dust. Varlax dropped to his knees. "No, the prophecy." Sira stepped forward. "You made your own fate, Varlax. This isn't prophecy. It's justice." With one final strike, Marcus slammed his fist into the alien's face, knocking him unconscious. It was over. Later that night, Marcus stood at the top of the ridge, holding a newly powered transmitter. Sira stood beside him, dressed in a clean robe from the outpost, her skin finally free of chains, her back healing. The stars above were bright. "Signals going through," Marcus said. "Earth Command will be here in a day or two." She looked at him quietly. "And you?" He turned to her. "I made a promise. I'm staying with you until you don't need me anymore." She smiled, eyes shining. "Then I hope you stay a long time." The twin sons of Kaiser rose over the ruins of the outpost, casting long shadows across the sand. Saralyn stood barefoot at the edge of a cliff, the morning wind gently brushing her hair. For the first time in 15 years, her wrists were free. Her back no longer bled. Her breath was no longer chained. She was no longer a prisoner. Below her, the old ventilation shafts lay buried in silence, once her prison. Now her past. Marcus stepped up beside her, holding 2 mugs of rehydrated tea. "Still can't sleep?" Sira smiled softly. "I don't want to." "Not yet. Why?" She looked at the sky, where a faint shimmer of stars still lingered. "Because this sunrise feels like my first one." Marcus handed her a mug. "Then we'll watch it together." They sipped in silence, letting the heat of the drink and the moment fill them. Far in the distance, smoke still curled from the crashed ships of Baron Varlax's elite guard. The battle was over, but the world still felt tense. Like it didn't quite believe he was gone. But Sira knew better. The man who once called himself Baron now lay inside a sealed containment pod, unconscious, stripped of his armor and power. Earth Command would arrive soon. He'd be taken to trial if he survived the trip, but his reign was done. Later that morning, Marcus worked on the old outpost's tower. His fingers moved quickly, patching circuits, tightening clamps. The signal boost was working. Earth's reply was only hours away. Behind him, Sira sorted supplies from crates left behind by long-dead rebels. Some food was still good. Some medicine too. But what caught her eye was an old dusty mirror. She picked it up slowly. For a long moment, she stared at her reflection. Her face had changed. The woman in the mirror had scars, faint lines from years of torture. But her eyes were different. No longer hollow. Now they held fire. Marcus saw her from behind. He stepped closer. "You okay?" She nodded. "I didn't recognize myself. Not because of how I look, but because I'm still standing." He smiled. "You didn't just survive, Sira. You resisted. That's power." She turned to him. "Why did you help me, Marcus?" "Really?" He didn't answer right away. He walked past her, picked up the same chain that once bound her wrist, and dropped it to the floor. Clink. "Because no one should be treated like an object," he said. "Not in my presence." She stepped closer. Most people would have walked away. "I know," he said softly. "That's why I didn't." That afternoon, a distant rumble broke the stillness. A ship. Sira ran outside with Marcus behind her. A silver cruiser slowly descended toward the old ridge. Earth Command's colors glowing on the sides. As the ship landed, dust flying, 2 humans stepped out in full armor. One saluted Marcus. "Engineer Rain, Command received your distress signal. You've caused quite a stir." Marcus nodded. "Good. This story needs to stir everything. The officer looked past him at Sierra. And this is her? Sierra stepped forward, tall and quiet. The officer blinked. We've seen her face in files. Prisoner number 014KZ. Thought she was dead. Marcus said firmly, she's not. A number. Her name is Sarah Lynn, and she's coming with us. The officer nodded slowly. Understood. Another soldier approached with a medical scanner, but Sierra lifted a hand. I'll go on my own feet. She boarded the ship slowly, turning only once to look at the land behind her. She didn't hate it. She had lived in pain here, but she had also found freedom here, and someone who reminded her she was worth saving. Days passed. On Earth's orbiting medical base, Sierra walked through white hallways, healing faster than expected. Specialists offered surgeries to remove her scars, but she declined. These are part of me, she told them. Let them stay. Marcus stayed with her the whole time. Some nights she woke up screaming, memories returning like knives, and each time, Marcus sat beside her bed, holding her hand until she calmed. He never asked her to move on. He just stayed. Weeks later, Earth held a trial for Baron Varlax. The evidence from the memory crystal recorded torture, hidden prisoners, rebel purges shocked the galaxy. Sierra gave her testimony. Her voice did not tremble. The verdict: life sentence on a prison moon. No throne, no chains. No name. Just numbered. Silence, the same fate he once gave her. Months passed. One morning, Marcus found Sierra standing by a launch bay window, staring at a blue-green planet below. He walked up. You've been quiet. She turned. They offered me a home. Where? A small colony, peaceful. They said I could work in healing again, help others. He nodded slowly. Sounds like a good life. She reached for his hand. It would be, if you came with me. Marcus grinned. I was hoping you'd say that. And so they left together. No chains, no cages. Just stars in front of them and sunlight behind, and wherever they landed next, Sierra would finally walk in the sun again. Free. Alive. And never forgotten. The end.